Now in our continuing series on health, beefing up your interview skills.
This will be conducted by our employer consultants, Becky Broghammer and Kristen Stengel.
The key points of interviewing, and we're going to take a little bit of time and have you guys practice with one another. If at any time you guys have questions, please feel free to stop me and interrupt. But again, this is pretty brief and quick, so hold on tight. Oh, wrong button. Okay. The most important thing for interviewing is knowledge is power. Know yourself. Start to review some of the skills that you have and be positive about the achievements. Sometimes we've been through situations, we might have been laid off, things have come up in our lives. Always remain positive about the resilience that you've had rather than the negative situation that you might have found yourself in. Know why you want to become a teacher. That's going to be one of the biggest questions and the most often question that you are asked. Why do you want to be a teacher? Why are you going into this profession? Know your resume well. Make sure that you know what you wrote down on that piece of paper, because if they ask you about it, you want to be able to say, oh yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. I didn't just make it up and forget about it. Are there things not on your resume or application that might be relevant to the job you're applying for? Go ahead and make sure that if there's different achievements, if there's different awards or activities you've been involved in, go ahead and just jot some of those things down just so that you might have them in addition to your resume. Recognize your weaknesses and articulate your plan for improvement in these areas. So again, recognize your weaknesses. That's going to be one of the questions that you have. Come up with a way to talk about your weaknesses, but not in a way that you give an example that is really not a weakness, but you have to come up with something like, I'm the most organized person in the world, and sometimes it's hard because I'm so organized, and it gets to be difficult. Not the best example, because you're going to be like, that's not a weakness. So again, think about areas that you're trying to improve. So I'm not very punctual, so I'm always talking about ways that I try to manage my time a little bit better so that I can improve my punctuality and be on time for things. Does that make sense? Know the position. Think about the specific qualifications and requirements and identify how your overall skills and experiences meet their requirements. Make it easy for the districts that you guys are applying to. If they're asking for specific qualifications that you've already done in past experiences, know that. So again, if you get the opportunity to know exactly what the job description is, I know education's a little bit different, but if there are certain things that you might do in ESL versus a specific subject matter, know some of those things and be able to articulate that. Know the school district. I overheard Becky talking to a student about this a little bit ago. Research their website, know their mission. That's going to be something really important. Every school district might have something different. There might be specific things within certain schools that might be a little different and varied from the district itself. Know their website. Network with current teachers or administrators, ask them about the climate and culture. All right, what to know about a district before the interview? What's unique? What's the size of the district? There's going to be a really big difference between Cherry Creek and, say, Weld RE3J, which I'm not even sure where exactly that is, but I know it's small. Or so you're going to want to know some of those things. The district's financial situation. How often do you guys hear something in the news about school districts and budget cuts? All the time? You guys hear into things like that all the time? So make sure you know that. Know news stories. Know if there's been layoffs recently, they've had big awards. Do your research on the districts that you guys are applying to. Again, talk about their specific mission or philosophy, or if they have a certain teaching style. You never know. School districts all might be doing something different. Particular schools might do something a little more individualized than others. Practice interviewing. We have a couple of resources on our website that you can look at, and we're going to take a little bit of time after the presentation's over for you guys to practice as well. Familiarize yourself, with potential interview questions. Practical examples of your experience using the skills that the employer is seeking. So we'll go over some of those too. Practice interviewing, videotape yourself. How many of you guys have ever done a practice interview? A couple of you? How many of you guys have interviewed a ton and are so good at it that you don't need to practice anymore? Okay, I still need to practice. I often, if I've done a practice interview, I never imagine how many times I say to Phil. But when I watched myself, I was like, oh yeah, that's really distracting when I say that every fourth word. So practice interviewing, watch yourself on videotape. So here's a couple of practice interviews, sample interview questions that you guys might encounter. Think about the question behind the question. Are they really just wanting to hear about yourself, or are they really going to want to hear how you're going to fit into their district and how your personality fits with what they're looking for? So again, think about the question behind the question. So again, some of the basic questions: tell me about yourself, strengths and weaknesses. Why do you want to become a teacher? What sets you apart from other candidates? What do you know about our district or particular school? Give me an example of a difficult or successful situation you have encountered in the classroom. What are your short and long-term goals? Providing examples convince me you can adapt to a wide variety of people, situations, and environments. So these are examples of questions you might encounter, and then we're going to talk about how you actually format your answers to some of these questions. So you're also going to want to have questions for the districts. It's kind of a two-way interview. As much as you want to just be kind of put on trial and have to answer everything, there's going to want to be things that you want answered and questions that you guys might have. So always prepare about 10 questions, because they might answer some of them as you go, and if you only have 3 written down and they answer them while you guys are talking, and then you don't have any questions and you try to come up with something on the spot, always be prepared and have more questions than less. Try not to ask things that could have been answered in your research. Not everyone researches in the same way, so there might be some things that you didn't find because you didn't look in a particular area. But again, some of those things that should be on their website, their mission, how big their district is, you're not going to want to be like, so where are you guys located? You might want to know that. Some of those things. Here's a good brief list of some sample questions to ask. District or school's goal or vision. That's a little bit different than a mission. So they might have a mission statement, but they might have a vision for accomplishing that mission. How would you describe the ideal candidate? Opportunities for growth. Top 3 priorities for a new teacher. It's always interesting when you talk with an interviewer, when you ask them about what they like about the district, people love to talk about themselves. So during teacher employment days, you might not have as much of an opportunity to ask these types of questions, but if you get further into the interview process, great time to take the opportunity to ask about the district, what they feel about it. One of the big things that will be important for you guys is the school's or district's biggest challenge right now. Again, budgets are in the news all the time. So what are they seeing? They might have things about the budget in the news every other day. Might not be one of their biggest challenges. They might have a whole other area that is their top priority for what they're trying to overcome. The media might be making the budget more of an issue than they really think it is. I doubt it, but you never know. This is real brief on wardrobe. Professionally dressed. There's some of you that look wonderful today. It'd be great for, you're ready for an interview right now. So always dress professionally and err on the side of too conservative. So if you're kind of teetering between this is super hip and trendy and super professional, stay over here with the super professional. Save the hip and trendy for the next time you get to, I don't know, go to a super fancy dinner. You never know if you want to have your crop jacket and your little capri pants too. That'll be more appropriate for something like that. Try to stay with blue or black pantsuit is appropriate for men and women. During the teaching profession, we see a lot of women in skirt suits. That's fine too. Always, again, stay more conservative than trendy or walking the fine line between fashionable and appropriate. Shoes polished, hair neat, makeup conservative. Keep in mind, you might really love your perfume or cologne, but it might be a little bit too much when you're sitting in a really close space with an interviewer, and it might be more distracting for them. They'll be trying to listen to your answers and be like, I really hate what perfume she's wearing. It smells awful. Yes, you were a student teacher. Like, they're not hearing what you're saying because they're distracted. Okay, teacher employment days. Bring extra copies of your resume and references on a separate piece of paper. So keep your resume with you, have as many copies as you need. If you have specific districts that you are targeting, you can always cater to those ones with those specific resumes. Just be sure to hand the appropriate resume to the right district. So don't hand Cherry Creek's to Aurora's, because they're going to be like, oh, that student doesn't even know what they're doing. So it can kind of be a crazy, hectic time, but just take the time if you do have specific ones to know where they are and make sure you hand it to the right district. Know where you're going and arrive 15 minutes early. Again, these are general interviewing practice guidelines, but for you guys, during teacher employment days too, there's huge aisles. And often, I've worked at this event for a few years now, and I still get lost. So if you have an interview with a district in 20 minutes, make sure you know where you're going so that you're not all of a sudden waiting at a table and they're like, hello, this is Cherry Creek, and you're like, okay, I thought it was at Weld County. And you have a panic. So make sure you know where you're going beforehand. The interview starts before your formal interview. If you get a chance to meet with somebody before you're actually sitting down with the interviewer, be courteous to them as well. That's all part of the interview process. Whether they're taking notes or not, they're taking notes mentally.